Tracy, what if we go ahead and start?
You could, and then just, yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask y'all to move the checkup first, but Bonnie's not here yet. So let's just go ahead and go proceed through so we can stay on time. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
Bonnie amens to present the check.
I will call to order the regular council meeting of Wednesday, August 16th, 2023 at 5 o'clock in City Hall chambers. Before I bring the meeting officially to order, I do want to take a moment to welcome not only our folks that are in the audience here in person, but also to send a welcome to all of those who are joining online. We are live streaming. This is a big deal, and we're so excited about this. As a reminder to the public, we approved some funding in 2022 to upgrade this facility. We have one of the older city halls around, and provide effective live streaming capabilities that would add to our already very transparent meeting processes. Just to point out for some who may be joining us for the first time, not only are our agendas online, but also our agenda packets. All the information that this body has to make decisions is available to the public, and that's something that we're really proud of. We go above and beyond what other cities do, and we're so glad that you're joining us. We did, like many things like cars and computers, we suffered some supply chain delays on some of the equipment necessary to put in this great new equipment in our chambers, but as soon as that stuff came in, our IT and our municipal clerk's office staff have worked hard to coordinate with our contractor and bring these improvements to fruition. And if you guys will join me in thanking them, we have 2 new TVs up here, back here. We have the same screen that you're seeing right here in front of us. The sound in here is so much better than it's ever been in this room before. Just even in person, the sound is better, which is one of the reasons that we couldn't Zoom before, because the sound in here in general was really, really tough, as those of you who join us in person can attest to. We also knew that when we tried being all together and Zooming, it didn't work because there was feedback. Electronically, that wouldn't work in this room, other than during COVID when we were all in separate locations. We've never been on Zoom together. But we are so excited to be able to live stream, and we, as our city manager has said, will have one of the best live streaming options around. So we're excited for folks to get to join us that way. With that said, I will call the meeting to order. The press and public have been notified according to the Freedom of Information Act.
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you. I believe, who has our invocations?
Councilmember Carter.
Okay, thank you.
Pray with me if you will. Dearest God in heaven and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the many blessings you bestow upon this city daily. Thank you for the beautiful weather we're having, even though it's a little warm. Thank you for the blessings of this new room and the new technology and equipment that we can share our message and our decision-making process with the public. Please now be with our public safety and all of our public first responders as they do the difficult task every day in this difficult time on the weather. We again ask this council to be strong, be courageous, and be decisive in their decisions, and just bless us with wisdom to make great decisions and good decisions on behalf of the citizens of Cayce. We ask all these names in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have asked council briefly if they would be amenable to moving item 3A to next in our agenda before we take up any other business, so that we can allow some of our visitors to get on to other meetings that they have.
Mayor, I make a motion that we move item 3A to between 1A and 1B
Second.
on the agenda.
Okay, is there any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins?
Yes.
Councilmember Socks?
Yes.
Councilmember Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you. So that item is presentation of a check from the South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority for the Cayce Avenues Drainage Improvements Project. Before I ask our folks to come up, I would like to tell everybody what this is about because it's very exciting. As a city, we are absolutely not shy about taking on large projects and take our responsibility, our municipal responsibilities, to provide the best customer service and the best possible services to our citizens very seriously. You can see that evidenced in our multi-million-dollar water line replacement project that upgraded nearly 75% of our in-city water customers' aging lines to build state-of-the-art water and waste and our state-of-the-art water plant and our state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant. But we also take on things that aren't necessarily ours to take on. Storm drainage is not something that cities, by and large, are responsible for. We don't own any of the streets or roads in our city. Those are either county-owned or state-owned, and that's predominantly where a large amount of the flooding comes from, that or private property. And also maintenance of those things. We don't collect taxes for those services. We are the lowest taxing entity of all of our partners, our federal, state, our county. We are the lowest taxing entity. And so we've made it clear to our partners that we are willing to coordinate the solution to this problem, but we cannot be the ones to pay for it. And we are incredibly blessed in having amazing partners at the state level. Representative Cayce Council and Senator Nikki Setzler have been amazing partners in supporting our citizens in dealing with things that happened when we built back in the 40s and 50s, and we didn't have the same regulations or even the same understanding of what storm drainage is like. So we are fixing things that are that old, but we are being proactive about that like we all are with things that we are responsible for, and in this case, we are not responsible for. In 2015, to that end, we did commission a study for the Avenues neighborhood that has some of the oldest recurring flooding to determine a plan forward so that we could help coordinate with our appropriate partners. Since that study was published, we have worked hard to secure grants and other funding sources to tackle this over $20 million solution, so there would be no impact on our city's tax dollars. We were awarded a Rural Infrastructure Authority grant a couple of years ago with match dollars from the South Carolina DOT to start these improvements. And those were just recently completed successfully in the Axtell, DeLessaline, and Blake Drive areas. And we're already seeing the wonderful benefit of that work. Tonight, we have a check presentation for another award that we have received from the Rural Infrastructure Authority under the state's South Carolina Infrastructure Investment Program. This is a $10 million award, again with matching funds from the South Carolina DOT for a total project budget of $11,740,000. And it will help us to continue the transformative stormwater work in that part of our city and beyond. With us tonight, and I'll ask you all to be coming forward as I introduce you tonight, with us tonight to present a check from the Rural Infrastructure Authority is their Executive Director, Bonnie Amons. We also have Senator Nikki Setzler, Representative Cayce Council, and please help me in thanking them before we all walk down for all this support.
Yes, ma'am.
Lots of hands.
Probably have to slide that a bit. I don't know what that.
Let's get one like this. Get it around. Okay.
SCDOT Secretary Kristen Hall could not be with us, but we thank her and include her in all of the celebrations as well. Bonnie, would you like to go first? Or say anything?
Well, we're just honored to be part of this. We recognize the significant drainage issues in the avenues. Oh, sorry. And we just recognize all the significant drainage issues that the city of Cayce has. We appreciate the efforts that you make to address that and to get partners to work together on that, and glad to be a part of it. And we could not provide this funding if it wasn't for our General Assembly allocated the funds. So.
Thank you. Senator?
I just want to say what a great day. This needs to be addressed and has needed to be addressed, and I'm happy to be a part of it and want to thank Bonnie for working with us.
As the senator said, it's a great day here in Cayce to be able to make this big step forward. And really just want to thank the folks who not only hold the mic literally, but make this project viable from a technical standpoint. When you got to put together all the documents, I think our staff here in Cayce has a lot to be proud of. And so I thank you guys for all that you've done to make this happen, as well as the council, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, and Representative Caskey and Senator Setzler not only have championed this project and helped us to move forward with storm drainage, but also wrote letters of support and continue to do a lot for our citizens. So thank you both, and thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You too. Have a good night.
Okay, so now we'll go back to item 1B. You have before you a request for approval of the minutes from July 11th and July 26th.
Motion to approve both, Mayor, for July the 11th and July 26th.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins,
Yes.
Councilmember Socks,
Yes.
Councilmember Carter,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, so moved. Next, we have public comment regarding items on the agenda.
No one signed up, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We have a presentation on the Walkability Action Institute.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dar Brown, and I'm the Senior Community Health Coordinator at Brooklyn Lakeview Empowerment Center. I also serve as Chair for the Active and Accessible Community Transit Coalition, otherwise known as ACT, and our mission is to improve and adopt equitable and inclusive environments for active transportation to everyday locations and recreation for all communities in Lexington County. But most importantly, I'm a Cayce resident. I bought my first house 19 years ago, about a mile from here, and I still live in that home. I am here today to share the outcome and potential impact of part of our coalition participating in South Carolina's first Walkability Action Institute. The Institute was held this past May through June. Teams had to apply and be accepted. Emphasis was placed on teams that focused on servicing disadvantaged, rural, or minority areas. Each team had to consist of a public health professional, an elected official, a planning professional, and a transportation expert. Our team was also unique in that we were multi-jurisdictional. We had a member from West Columbia who joined our team. And serving as team leader, I also chose to include Able, South Carolina, not only to have disability representation, but to also remind us that whether we are blessed to never be born or acquire a disability, we are all aging, and with that comes decreased mobility, decreased hearing, and decreased vision. Next slide, please, Mindy. So these are the 5 teams that participated in the Action Institute. We were the only one that was considered urban out of the 5 teams. The program faculty really challenged us to think big, not to think too small, to think as widely and broadly about a project that would best serve and help our communities. And our challenge was to also think of an idea to increase non-car movability that would benefit both Cayce and West Columbia. Next slide, please. So this is our big idea, to create a safe and inclusive walk, bike, arts district loop that connects West Columbia and Cayce using Savage Craft and Steel Hand breweries as anchors. So that's the blue line that you see. That's a line that connects the 2 breweries. That's approximately 2 miles. And the red line completes the loop. And that adds an additional approximate 3 miles for a total of about a 5-mile loop. This loop would increase active tourism and economic development for the area. This would also line up with the larger plans to connect the Lake Murray Dam Walk to downtown. So in theory, residents in Irmo could ride their bikes and spend their money at Steel Hands. So people coming to Columbia for USC games, to do business at the State House, or trainings at Fort Jackson could enjoy the ability to rent an e-bike and ride between the breweries and places to shop, etc. And the loop would improve connectivity for disadvantaged and historically Black areas to access everyday destinations that may appear upon the loop, like banks and pharmacies and food access and jobs. You'll notice we have some neighborhoods identified that would benefit from the loop's connectivity, particularly the avenues. It also included historically Black areas in pale blue, such as Pocomo, Freeman's Hill, and Silver City. But let's take a look at what has happened in other areas when they've improved upon walk-bike infrastructure. Next slide, please. So this is a slide out of Florida's State Parks, I believe, Association. In Florida, bicycle riding on paved roads and trails brings in more than $6 billion annually statewide. And outdoor recreation, fitness, walking, and jogging brings in $13.5 billion to the state annually. Next slide. In Georgia, the Atlanta Beltline is scheduled to be finished in approximately 2030 and will be a 22-mile planned loop of multi-use trail. The Atlanta Beltline is designed to reconnect neighborhoods and communities historically divided and marginalized by infrastructure, improve transportation, add green space, promote redevelopment, create and preserve affordable housing, and showcase arts and culture. Thus far, 50,000 jobs have been created near the Beltline in the city. That was 20,000 more than they originally projected. Closer to home, we have our friends in Greenville with the Swamp Rabbit Trail. In its 3rd year, the Swamp Rabbit Trail saw more than 500,000 users, a 13% increase in minority usership, and $6.7 million economic boost from tourists. So what could this proposed loop or this idea of a loop mean to current or future Cayce residents? Next slide, Mindy. The 2023 National Association of Realtors Community and Transportation Preference Survey finds that there's a demand for walkability among all age groups, that Gen Z wants to live near mass transit and is willing to spend more to live in a walkable community. Millennials want their community leaders to provide convenient alternatives to driving, such as walking, biking, and public transportation. And of the over 2,000 survey respondents, those with lots of places to walk nearby or more likely to be satisfied with their quality of life. Let's continue with this idea of quality of life. Next slide, Mindy. Reading from page 2 of the SCDOT's Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Action Plan that was published in May 2022, South Carolina ranks 5th in the nation for pedestrian fatalities based on population, with the most common pedestrian fatal crash type being the pedestrian was struck while crossing the roadway by a vehicle traveling straight through, and the most common bicycle fatality type being a motorist trying to overtake a cyclist. More than half of these crashes did not involve drugs, alcohol, or bad weather conditions. This slide is Cayce and West Columbia's contribution to this data and depicts pedestrian-related crashes in the two cities from 2017 to 2022, with non-fatal collisions as circles and fatal collisions as triangles. Of course, we have no record of near misses. The proposed loop is in red, and though it wouldn't resolve everything, it would begin to address some of the cluster sites that are identified along the loop, that are along the map, with identified DOT countermeasures that would be along the loop and would be an excellent start to addressing an important public safety issue. Next slide, please. So the question comes up of what could this look like? And I'm a public health professional, not an urban planner, so I don't have fancy software to do really fancy things. But this kind of gives you an idea of before on the left and after on the right of what the loop could possibly look like, what kind of aesthetic effect. Next slide, please. However, I encourage you to now think big. Imagine well-lit, broad, smooth sidewalks with benches, public art displays, and shade trees that would not only create beauty and comfort, but could possibly assist with storm water runoff. Imagine highly visible bike lanes that are separated from traffic with plants and artsy bike lane barriers. Imagine the empty storefronts on State Street, full of family-friendly businesses due to the increased foot traffic. Imagine national chain and locally owned businesses possibly along Frank Street with parking in the rear in order to maintain a street-friendly entrance. And imagine people walking and biking to jobs easily accessible from their homes, all while our residential streets maintain their quiet charm. Next slide, please. So this is the idea. What comes next after this? We, the coalition, have an action plan that will take us through the next few years, and we will keep you updated every step of the way, including on proven anti-displacement measures, because this has become an issue in Atlanta, and on the door closed. And on form-based zoning codes to help maintain Cayce's character. The plan does include doing demonstrations of what the loop would possibly be and how it will work for its users, pedestrian and bike users, but also how it would work in regular traffic and with our emergency vehicles. And we look forward to working with city staff to bring these demonstrations to life. We also feel the loop aligns with the transportation, economic, housing, and land use goals in the city's comprehensive plan and exemplifies the city's motto by creating time for life. As far as grants for projects that would tie in nicely with the loop have already been applied for. Cayce, West Columbia, and the County of Lexington all applied for federal planning monies before we even announced this idea. And we hope that we will continue communication with each jurisdiction to bring some version of this loop into fruition. And that starts with these council meetings, council presentations, of which you guys are the first to hear of this plan. I'd also like to extend an invitation to council to participate in intermunicipal walkability audits, along with others who would be invested in such an idea, such as residents of any age and ability, business owners and developers, housing and real estate professionals, and anyone else who would like to give their input. These audits can and will give us a boots-on-the-ground view of where we're starting from, because parts of the city look very different on foot than they do by car. And just to say thank you, I'd like to thank Mayor Parton for her support, Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins for his participation from the very beginning, and also Planning and Zoning Administrator Monique Ocean for her ideas and research. And finally, Council, thank you for granting me this time. This is about access, mobility, and citizen safety. And I hope to see you on a walk audit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dara. Next, we have discussion and approval to enter into an agreement with 2 general contractor firms to serve for on-call general contractor services for the city.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. As part of the city's efforts to update contracts and ensure best practices for procurement of services, the city issued a general contractor request for qualification, or RFQ, to select a firm or firms to serve as the city's on-call general contractor. 2 firms responded to that RFQ, 3D Dirtworks and Mashburn Construction Company. Both were found to be responsive to the RFQ. After review of the proposals and staff discussion, staff recommends entering into an agreement with both firms as being qualified vendors for city construction work. As qualified vendors, both will provide quotes when a general contracting-related project arises, and the city will select the one most suited for the particular project. Depending on the price of that project, appropriate council approval processes will be followed for each one. It would be recommended that these agreements offer a 2-year term. So what's before you tonight is staff's recommendation that the City Council approve qualifying both 3D Dirtworks and Mashburn Construction as on-call general contractor services for us, and give approval for the city manager to negotiate and enter into an agreement with them for a 2-year term. There is no specific project at this time, no specific price. That would occur as we had a qualified project come forward. We're just trying to get qualified vendors under our procurement process so that we can move more efficiently and quickly on projects. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there a motion to support the staff recommendation to approve qualifying 3D Dirtworks and Mashburn Construction for on-call general contractor services and give approval for the city manager to negotiate and enter into an agreement with them for a 2-year term?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Tracy, I think you said it. I just want to make sure that I understand. This is for projects that we as a city may build, and these folks would be on call for us as needed, but there are no anticipated projects at the time. We just need these to be on call for us.
It just helps us move more quickly on projects like larger than our staff can do. Sidewalk repairs on the Riverwalk, some building upgrades or improvements. And as those projects arise, we would go to these 2 as qualified vendors and ask for quotes.
Okay.
And if it's of the, depending on our process, if it's to come back to you and is not budgeted, then you would get those at that time. We just wouldn't have to issue a separate RFP every time we try to do these projects.
Thank you.
We have on-call agreements now with other services.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
Then I'll call the question.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins?
Yes.
Councilmember Socks?
Yes.
Councilmember Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, so moved. We have discussion and approval for agreement for professional engineering services for the Cayce Avenues Drainage Improvements Project. This is Phase 2.
As mentioned earlier during the check presentation, the City of Cayce's long been working to address drainage issues in the avenues. As a result of persistent localized flooding in the avenues portion of the city, a multi-year storm drainage improvement program is currently underway. On August 2nd of 2022, Cayce City Council approved the plans to submit a grant application to the Rural Infrastructure Authority for what we're calling the SCIP funding. This SCIP grant opportunity affords the city a unique way to address further without burdening our general fund, which does not collect money for street and/or drainage repairs. The City of Cayce has recently completed the first phase of improvements under this program, which only addressed a limited amount of the needs that were identified in our 2015 Avenues Area Drainage Study. This SCIP grant will address a large portion of the remaining draining projects identified in the study, if not most of all. On June 6, 2023, Council authorized the City Manager to sign the award letter accepting the $10 million grant that was presented to you by check this evening, and that will address chronic stormwater issues in the avenues, and the notice to proceed was later received on August 8, 2023. That is in your packet. This project will make various drainage improvements to 2 drainage basins in the avenues neighborhood as shown on the attached plan. That's also in your packet. The plan also proposes to improve outfalls in the Indigo and Naples drainage basin. As part of this grant project, engineering services are required for design, permitting, construction management, and observation. Staff seeks to contract with American Engineering, the city's current on-call engineer and author of the 2015 Avenues Drainage Study, to perform the design and construction management services. That contract is attached in your packet. Compensation for the engineering services is as follows: $1,165,800 for design phase, $574,200 for construction phase services and observation, and you'll notice a zero missing in your total there, which is for $1,740,000. As the author of the 2015 Avenues Drainage Study, American Engineering is intimately familiar with the drainage engineering needs of the city, and since study publication, staff has worked on a regular basis with them to plan for stormwater and drainage improvements. Funding for engineering and construction services will be covered by the South Carolina Department of Transportation, which is providing the 15% match that's required by the SCIP grant under a previous agreement that we had with them, that recognizing that a large portion of the stormwater improvements occur on state-owned right-of-way. Thus, no city funding is being utilized for this very large project. Approval of these services is in conformance with the SCIP guidelines and SCDOT policy. Staff recommends that City Council approve the engineering and construction services agreement with American Engineering in the amount of $1,740,000, again, add a zero, and authorize the city manager to execute the contract that's in your packet.
I quickly want to make a motion to approve, and let's get this project started.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
No.
I'll call the question.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins?
Yes.
Councilmember Socks?
Yes.
Councilmember Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, so moved. And awesome job, staff, on that grant. $10 million plus, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you. Okay, next we have discussion and approval of selection of community development software program.
In your current FY24 budget, council approved the purchase of a community development business licensing permitting software. The upgraded software will streamline the planning department's processes and enhance their abilities to process business licenses, permitting, code enforcement, inspections, and zoning requirements in an efficient and effective way. The software will work in line with the finance department and will supply solutions for every position within our planning and development department. Staff performed an extensive evaluation process, reviewing 7 different software companies that provide this type of service. They evaluated these programs on the basis of being able to provide the services needed by the planning department for the most effective and efficient program, and in a way that is compatible with our existing programs and IT system. In doing so, Central Square Community Development Software was the only program that met all of our needs at the best value, and that will include the following: geographic information system mapping, planning and zoning, permitting and inspections, code compliance, business and regulatory licensing, directory for architects, engineers, and contractors, customer relations management, so there's an external portal to this work, online portal for contractors and residents, and will work with mobile devices. Central Square also provides seamless integration into all of our other city departments, ensuring a cohesive and interconnected system if we should desire to do so at a later time. The total cost for implementation of the Central Square Community Development Software is $104,140. That includes implementation fee of $83,240 and an annual subscription fee of $20,900. The ARPA funding that was approved by council was for $88,000 and would cover the implementation fee. And within the planning and department's FY24 operating budget is the annual subscription fee of $20,900, so the cost has already been approved. Staff recommends council approve the purchase of the Central Square Community Development Software in the amount of $104,140.
Thank you. Is there a motion for the staff recommendation?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins?
Yes.
Councilmember Socks?
Yes.
Councilmember Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you, so moved. You have before you a beautification foundation application. There is a vacancy on that foundation, and you have before you an application from Ms. Kelly King.
Motion to appoint Ms. Kelly King, please. Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? I'll call the question.
Councilmember James.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins.
Yes.
Councilmember Socks.
Yes.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, so moved. We have the city manager's report.
Yes, as I related to all of council that I would do, for my report tonight, I'd like to address some incorrect and inflammatory comments that have been made on social media lately about the city's work. Regardless of what their intent may be, they are so inaccurate, they are detrimental to the great progress we are making as a city, and they attack our hardworking staff. The first area to address relates to complaints about the city's water quality. The facts are as follows. We have had a total of 52 calls regarding our water system in 2023, that's since January. Of these 52 calls, 40 were regarding discolored water. So you know that most of these types of calls occur when a hydrant has been flushed in the area. When we get these calls, our procedure is to go to the address, run an outside spigot to confirm discoloration, and flush the service line. And we will continue to do that until the color is clear. I'd like to note that only 2 of these 52 calls came from the area that was posting these complaints on social media, just 2. But the biggest point I would like to make here is that colored water occurring after we flush our hydrants is absolutely safe to drink. There is no concern about colored water from a safety perspective, and I want the public to know that. The remaining 12 calls were about general water quality like taste or odor. When we get these calls, our water treatment plant staff go out and collect a sample and analyze approximately 11 different technical parameters. Of the 12 calls we received and analyzed, there were no abnormal results. Again, from the calls we received, the quality of the water was found to be just fine. Note, there was only 1 of these 12 calls that came from the area that, again, was posting these complaints. We did not receive calls from the folks that were on social media concerned about water quality. Our staff takes pride in their work, and if our customers ever have any concerns, they would be happy to check it out. So please, please call us and not take to social media. We cannot help you there if we don't see it. So my plea tonight is to make sure that everyone knows if they have a concern about anything that the city provides, that they give us a call directly. The second area I'd like to address relates to the city's efforts to manage stormwater issues in the avenues. In addition to the unparalleled grant Mayor Parton introduced earlier in the meeting and for which we were presented a check, staff has worked tirelessly to secure other funding sources over the last several years, and we have discussed them in here every single time. We've applied to various grants through organizations like FEMA and the South Carolina Office of Resiliency. Unfortunately, those grant requests were not successful for various reasons. The erroneous information I wish to set straight tonight regards the latter grant. Last year, in addition to the $10 million RIA grant we worked hard to submit and were successful in receiving, we also submitted a grant to the South Carolina Office of Resiliency for the same purpose. We met with that staff before the grant application was open to discuss our avenues drainage study, and they were super impressed with it. We were very disappointed to not receive that grant, but totally understood that the competition was tough, and that office only had $50 million to allocate to this project in total across the state versus the nearly $1 billion that the Rural Infrastructure Authority had. There are unfortunate comments that were made online, such as the following. The cities applying for this grant were supposed to watch a Zoom meeting to learn how to write the grant, and that Cayce did not attend. Resiliency offered to help write any grant if the city asked. Cayce waited 2 months until the last 2 days before the deadline to send in their grant request. A copy of the grant request sent by the Cayce was obtained, and it was a mess. Resiliency, the office of, was contacted, and the reason the request was not awarded was because the city of Cayce did not follow directions as they should have. I debated long about whether or not to even state these things directly, being afraid that it would give credit to that false information. But I determined it was more important to ensure the facts were out there and to share statements that we got directly from the manager of the Office of Resiliency, who was knowingly misquoted by this same person on social media. The Office of Resiliency had the following things to say about the City of Cayce's grant application. The Office of Resiliency conducted numerous voluntary presentations in the summer of 2022, including a presentation at the City of Cayce. We received such a presentation. There was no Zoom meeting that we were required to attend. SCORE met individually with city staff about the program in July of 2022, and the city identified with them potential projects that would fit well within the program criteria. The City of Cayce submitted a complete application prior to the submittal deadline. The application incorporated all of the suggestions that SCORE staff made during the one-on-one meeting with the city in July. SCORE received 77 total project applications for more than $200 million in funding requests. Remember, they had $50 million to give. SCORE was able to award the top 17 projects with the amount of funding they had available. The City of Cayce's, and these are all quotes, the City of Cayce's application was thorough and well-developed. It just does not simply meet the top 10 projects. Again, I'm really sorry to talk about something like that, but it just undermines the work of our staff, and I cannot let such misinformation be out there. We did submit a great application. We simply didn't get funded for it. I do want to end on a good note. It's back to school time, and I wanted to share some kudos for our school resource officers team. They have made some changes within their division, and they are now operating at a higher capacity and capability than ever before. Their passion is clear. Not only did they work patrol this summer and continue their education in classrooms for themselves, but they extended their community outreach tenfold. Their character camp was clearly not just a daycare. It had more purpose and more impact on more children than ever before, and the back-to-school event reached twice as many families as in the past. They handed out fans to citizens visiting them in their homes, visited community partners, and developed new relationships across the city. They worked hard over the summer, and they've done a great job for our community and should be recognized for their efforts even outside of the classroom. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, and Chief, y'all please let the SROs know that we're very appreciative of all that they're doing to look out for our youngest citizens. Thank you. Any council comments tonight?
I'm good.
I would just like to say, look, the sound in here is great. Y'all can actually hear what we're saying in this room, and we hope that y'all online could hear great as well. I'm getting a yes shaked head from one of the people I want us to give a round of applause to. Jamie in the back corner is actually cannot seen, but thank you, Jamie. But he's back there working hard to make sure that the sound quality stays great throughout. Lucky him, he'll get to join us for our council meetings all the time now. And also to Minnie Corder for scheduling this as soon as we had all of this great equipment available, getting the contractors in. It looks amazing. Thank you. I don't believe we have anything for executive session tonight.
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
I'll call the question.
Councilmember James?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins?
Yes.
Councilmember Socks?
Yes.
Councilmember Carter?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us online, y'all.